I'm Colin. Hazen.
I'm Emma. I'm Kate. Abby.
I'm Kaya, and today I will be giving my persuasive speech on why we shouldn't have water privatization. Did you know that 1 billion people lack access to sufficient, clean, and affordable water? Private companies often promise to increase access to water and improve service, but the reality is that privatization is much more costly and corrupt than you would think. I've done my research on the subject of privatization for this speech, and because I am also passionate about this speech, I have done a lot of research. Whether you agree or not, my overall goal is to increase awareness of the detrimental effects that privatization of water can have in developing countries and all around the world. Most people would agree that water should be a public commodity, but for those who think otherwise, I hope we can all agree that water can at least be a fundamental right to human life and health. Water becoming privatized increases the rates and increases corruption, which results in a loss of control for the people who suffer most from it. The first threat for water privatization includes the monetary cost. Food and water, this is from the Food and Water Watch article from 2015, stating investors-owned utilities typically charge 59% more for water service than local government utilities. Studies show that after privatization, water rates increase at around 3 times the rate of inflation. Next, it is also crucial to pay attention to operational costs regarding the private sector. Privatization is not significantly more efficient, and in most cases actually worsens service of quality and is impractical. One reason for the emergence of this problem is that climate change has worsened over the past few decades, and as a consequence, according to a 2017 article by author Adam Hudson, is more than 80% of the water available to agriculture, domestic, and industrial users is withdrawn annually, leaving businesses, farms, and communities vulnerable to scarcity. Historically, cities created municipal water and sewage utilities to prevent the spread of communicable diseases. But as old water infrastructure crumbles and federal funding shrinks, local governments have begun turning to private companies. Such companies present themselves as the hero to this rising problem, claiming they will increase access to service to impoverished communities, but just like any monopoly, corporations are only accountable to their stockholders, not the people they serve. An article from the Journal of Studies and Research in Human Geography in 2014 summarizes that the problem is both an issue of scarcity and allocations, and undoubtedly embedded in governance and institution and policies. This quote helps us understand that the problem associated with privatization are multidimensional. Not only is there an increase in costs and a decrease in service, but there is also a loss of public input and transparency when it comes to companies making decisions. As stated by the Journal of World System Research, privatization is a threat to human rights everywhere, and as climate change progresses, resources will become even scarcer, intensifying the push from corporations to control and commodify water. Another dimension of the problems, and perhaps the most important, are the people affected by it. Private companies often promise that they'll increase access and improve service for low-income or impoverished communities, who ensure that citizens are not the object of profit. Even if their intentions are earnest, in the end, their business is operating on the basis of allocating profit, and without proper oversight and regulation from the government, corruption is inevitable. Real-life experience of privatization is often disastrous for consumers and adds new hurdles for low-income families, as said in a 2004 article for Race and Poverty Environment journal. Now let's examine the solution, since we already looked at the problem of water privatization. There are several solutions to address this problem. Instead of privatization, municipalities can be partnering with public partners that are more cost efficient, reliable, and responsive to the need of people. There are several ways to address the problem of water scarcity in general. They include community-controlled water utilities, repairing displated water system through public funding, saving water by installing drip irrigation systems, and enhancing water reclamation and conservation programs by installing low-flow toilets and showers, and improving wash management, in the words of Jay Beck in 2004. This was said. By going to this link, you can further educate yourself on the problems I've discovered today and even research local efforts happening in your state. The same website provides information on the Water Act petition, acknowledging that we need to plan ahead and create a dedicated source of public funding that will help public utilities protect our community's valuable water resources, which was said in 2015. No matter where you live, there is something you can do for these efforts. One of the biggest reasons problems like these grow so immense is that people just aren't aware. So the responsibility to learn more and tell your friends and family about what they can do to help is yours. An obstacle that is not as easily fixed is if the threat of privatization to low-income communities of color is to be stopped. People of color in particular need to be included in water governance decisions, which was also said by Beck in 2004. But just becoming more involved in the matter and creating awareness for those who are suffering from privatization, eventually their voices will be heard. You can also visit the website to learn more about Water Allies Network and their efforts to safeguard and sustain our water systems for all. In conclusion, water privatization is an issue because it increases rates while decreasing the quality of service and eliminating jobs. Privatization lacks accountability and transparency with the people it serves and leaves the low-income population it claims to provide for worse than they were before. Educate yourself, advocate for others, and spread awareness to these issues by utilizing the website I referred to and more. Let's work together to make sure the billion people who lack access to clean and affordable water worldwide to have the fundamental human rights met. Thank you.